Forza Horizon 3. I absolutely love it.
It's
Reiner, you reviewed
fantastic. The best racing game of the year, best Forza game yet.
Okay.
So that series, long running, started with Forza Motorsport. That is kind of the primary release in that series. And then Horizon was kind of the sister game. Move over Motorsport because I think Horizon is now the destination. And the one thing, I talked to Kato about this off the air, I like Horizon more just because you know you're not getting regurgitated tracks. Like the Motorsport series, you're always getting those iconic tracks, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to see those. They're going to keep adding tracks to it. Horizon takes a new place in the world. They take the Horizon Festival and move it around the world. So it started in Colorado, then it was like in Mediterranean Europe, and now this one in Forza Horizon 3, it's in Australia.
And it's so funny. It's such a fun premise to have like this roaming party. So like a lot of the beginning of the game, all the dialogue is like, well, we're down here in Australia. This is crazy. There's big spiders. Kangaroos are nuts, y'all. Let's have a party. And like, who would turn down that party, festival, and vibe, like, compared to...
I don't know. I don't want to hang out with that guy.
Come on down, y'all. Kangaroos! This is nuts. But then, like...
Please leave the party.
How dry is the main series for Forza these days? Are they trying to make a clean line where that's, like, for adults, and then this is for tweens?
I mean, I'm not going to, insult people specifically or whatever, but, I mean, I think it's a pretty clean line, and I think it's definitely to Forza's detriment. You talk about, like, the flow. Obviously, Horizon's going to have a different feel, so to speak, and maybe it's not as simmy. But just the fact, like Reiner was saying, with picking the races and stuff and the regurgitated tracks, the last Sim Forza, they went after like a very historical track through your career, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. Some previous Forzas has done more sort of like a curated sort of thing where you could kind of steer what you want to do in your career by which car you're in. Mm-hmm. But the point being is that, they're losing the battle. Because I think, like I said, if you want to just get in a car and race some sweet cars and obviously, enjoy the scenery and all that kind of stuff, I mean, you're just, I think, going to more naturally gravitate towards Horizon.
You're pretty plugged into the racing community, I'd say. You've reviewed 6,000 racing games for us throughout your career here. Is there any real advantage for not having open world racing games? I feel like so few studios, once they've kind of like ripped open that seal of we're going open world, so few go back, and it's so strange to me to have the Forza series bouncing back and forth. Is there like a fan base that hates the concept of open world racing?
I mean, I think maybe there's a small percentage who want, like you were saying, like specific tracks, ones that they know and love. I think that there's two other things going on. One is sort of the simulation aspect. So if you have, I'm not saying like an open world structure necessarily means you can't have simulation racing, but I think that there's a culture there that might not fit. There's an expectation there that might not fit. Maybe there are even sort of physics reasons to, are you on the track? Are you off the track? How does that sort of jive with the style of racing you're going to be doing? Because obviously if you're doing, more sim-based, you're just going to be on the track. You're not going to be doing anything else. Not to say that you can't have a sim-based off-road racing game, but there's that. I think that there's also the car culture thing. Certainly customization. Everybody loves fast cars and variety of cars, but customization and some other things go more towards Horizon, whereas for the normal Forza series, I think you've got people, like when you look at the Forza Vista feature where you can go in and look at your cars, they want the real car, down to everything about it, and it's that love of cars, so to speak, not necessarily. I'm not saying they don't like driving the cars, but there's a subset that's about loving the car itself. And then I think also you go into the multiplayer things, like in its presentation and things that. I'm no judgment, and I think that the other thing too is that maybe, and I'm just guessing with multiplayer, Horizon gives you a lot of different tools to create your own races and how you want to interface with other people, whereas I think that for some of the more Forza mainline racers, maybe for the multiplayers, it's strictly about that racing competitive experience in the sense that you don't want to get the sense that there's anything impeding you from competing, let's say on a skill level or anything, from just one-on-one against other people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like you don't want it's not about other considerations. It's just about, am I racing faster and how, am I better than the cars on the track?
What's really interesting with Horizon 3 is I feel like there's a lot of community enthusiasm. I just see a lot of buzz on Twitter over this game. And I'm trying to figure out, like, you reviewed Forza Horizon 2, right?
Yeah.
Shadow? I'm sure it's 90% of the same features, but for some reason this one breaks too. And I'm trying to figure out if it's the game
no,
or if it's
that's
the
not
PC.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say just real quickly. I mean, it's like 2. Yeah, it came out, at the beginning of the Xbox One, but this is, this brings the series strictly to Xbox One in a way that another one never did.
Yeah, and it is a significant evolution over the other one. And there's three big beats there, and some of it, blends in with what they've done before. But the three big beats are co-op multiplayer or co-op campaign, which is so much fun. Playing the game with Cork and Brian Shea and having those guys in my races, and we're working as a team together in these races against computer opponents. To win the races, get the medals and all that stuff that we need to unlock other stuff. And just being able to cruise around the open world together and just find stuff like, hey, you should come over here. There's a barn over here.
That's the thing. You say campaign. Like one thing that is really striking to me is just the constant variety. There's this great feature where you just press on the D-pad and say, hey, what should I do next? And it'll just throw really entertaining challenges at you, and you can just do that forever.
Yeah.
So when you're doing it co-op, you just do all those separate little...
All of it together, everything together.
Okay.
So they raised the score. So if you're doing like a drifting challenge and it's 25,000 single player, it'll be 50,000 two player, and they'll just keep adding it up. If you have 4 players, so it'll be up to 100,000 or whatever.
Okay.
So you're working together. So one guy can be completely blowing it, Brian Shea,
Uh-huh.
whereas the other guys on your team, have to work double hard, to get those goals. Point number 2 is the world itself is so dynamic and diverse in its locations and makes for such fun tracks. Yes, it has the open world problems of having to travel to those locations for the race starts, which is annoying, traveling 2-3 miles at a time.
There is fast travel, but it costs a little
That
bit.
only goes to the fast travel only goes to the festival locations.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
So you can't just go to the races. But these races, I mean, it's almost like Fast and the Furious, where it's almost surprising if it is just a street race with no dirt, no jumps. Most of them have those things. And then they throw in kind of a trademark trait of Forza is sometimes you'll race against like an airplane.
Or a train.
Yeah. In this one, it's like, okay, you're going to take on a Jeep. And you're like, all right, I'll take on that Jeep. We're going to go through the wilderness, this forest. And they're like, but guess what? The Jeep's going to be tethered to the bottom of a army cargo helicopter.
We're crazy. It's Horizon. Millennials.
And it just flies through the forest. And this guy's just getting battered around. He must have just been a smear on that windshield by the end of that race. But it goes bonkers in that capacity. So not only does it have, and the second point, awesome scenery and location variety for the tracks, but they do really crazy fun things in those races. And then point 3 is you could play it however you want. So when you go up to a race, and you're like, I don't want to use this car in it, or they recommend this one. Mm-hmm. You can do the blueprint mode and make it whatever race you want.
Right, it's
you
like
could
a little
change the number.
forge.
You
within
could change the
Horizon.
laps, the cars that are in it. You could play it however you want. And I think that's such a smart thing. So if you buy a new car for like $2 million, you've been saving up for a week for it. You could play that as much as you want. You don't have to switch it up.
Also, on the very superficial level, this game does something very fun. I don't know if the other Horizons have done it, but you get to choose your name in the beginning. It's basically like a custom license plate or a gift shop store, My son is also named Bort. So like you choose Ben, and like you can do it like Fallout 4 and a few other games, but like it never really was really that striking to me in those. But this one, where like every time they boot up a new challenge, they're like, "Hey Ben, how would you drive over here?" It's really effective.
I'm a girl named Kangaroo.
Is that true?
Yeah.
So they go, "Hey Kangaroo."
Yeah.
I think the other ones did that, but I think so. I think
they
did that.
have more avatars now.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
More characters.
There's so much going on in this game.
It's
It's
amazing,
really fun,
yeah.
and it's streamlined if you want it to be, but it has that Peggle effect of just constantly giving you splash screens, stars, sparklers flying over. There's 1,000 meters filling up. Like, I don't know what
joy.
any of this is.
Yeah, I mean, if you're racing poorly and like driving through fences, it's like, let's make him feel happy. Wreckage bonus.
Right.
Yeah, you just seeing it pop up on the top
Yeah.
of the screen.
You're gonna level up because you saw.
You're partying. You can't do anything wrong. We're in Australia.
But real quick, that is kind of the shell of the game. The racing itself is Forza to a T. From Horizon to Motorsport, where you're following, and Gran Turismo even, where you're following this line along the path. You could turn it off if you want. It tells you where to line up, where to brake, all that stuff. It's very handy, but I think they did a good job with their kind of the flags on the sides of the road,
Mm-hmm.
where you can kind of pay attention to that more than the grid that they have for you.
Yeah, do you feel like, because I check in on the open world racing genre every once in a while. Like, I played a little bit of The Crew, played a little bit of like Need for Speed Rivals, Need for Speed Most Wanted. I love. Is there any uproar, or is the fan base ever upset about it being too handholdy? With hey, we're going to show you the exact racing line. We literally just show you where to brake. Is there a part of the community that just turns that off because it just is seen as like experience
I
share
would
in
assume.
Pokemon
I mean,
just
you
to
know,
bring you on?
it's known to be an optional thing that you don't have to do. I think it's the same with rewinds. You know, the rewind
Yeah.
concept that a lot of racing games use. You just turn it off. You know,
Forza has that.
Yeah.
Horizon. Yeah.
It's so nice though. If you're just a casual racing game fan,
I
going into
use
this
it, yeah.
feels great. Oh, great.
But-
Okay.
that is disabled in co-op
Yeah.
because you're all sharing the same experience. You can't have someone pausing and rewinding on you.
And you
so.
can't break the space-time continuum.
Nope.
It's like Max Payne
So it
3
makes it a little
multiplayer.
harder. That makes it a lot harder. So, you know, like as Jeff and I are just cruising along and Brian Shea's wiping out in the back complaining, you know, he can't rewind and
Rambling on about his
Yeah.
gym or how they changed the Pokemon nests.
You drive on the left side of the road in that game, right? Don't
It's
you?
very
Uh-huh.
confusing.
Yeah.
I actually dug through the menus to see, like, God, it'd be so awesome if they made an option in the menu to, like,
Mirror
hey,
it.
let's correct these roads in Australia.
I saw
everybody.
people like complaining about it on Twitter. Like,
Really?
we should be able to change that setting. It's my game.
That's like American-centric
I
complaint
know. That's what I
possible.
thought. Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
where
I
we're
think-
at in the world, by the way.
Yeah, I think you flush the toilets, it goes the correct.
Well,
button
now
as
I can't
well.
enjoy this racing game, Kato. This is garbage. But you ended up giving it a what?
9.25 out of 10.